Hello folks, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about some exciting news for Canon users. So apparently there is a new cine camera that is going to come out. Well, it's not apparently, it's sure, because Canon has put the news outside there, basically the pre-conference link outside there for us to follow on the 9th of September, which is in like 4 days by the time I'm recording this video. Not sure if it's going to come out now, but in any case, many YouTubers have already been calling this camera the FX3 killer. And that's where I think the problems starts coming out, because that problem started already with the Lumix S1 Mark II, or any camera that comes out right nowadays. It's like, yes, it's going to be an FX3 killer, and then it comes out, it's not, and many people start laughing at the company, and there is so much pressure then put on the company because of what the rumors and news companies or like news people. I'm not a news guy, but I like to just talk about what I hear people just put out there, and that is a problem. It's a problem. So I think we have to stop calling cameras FX3 killers, especially FX3 is a 5 or 4.5-year-old camera by now, and let's just call it like the S7, the A7S3, the FX3 and the FX6 are going to pass down as legendary cameras of our current era, right? When later on there will be most probably way better cameras, but those three category cameras are going to be legendary cameras because they get the job done in a fantastic way. Beautiful image, amazing bodies, amazing frame rates, amazing dynamic range, and amazing sensors. We can say whatever we want, but that's what it is. Those cameras are going to be legendary cameras because they are. There is nothing we can say. You can be a fanboy, Canon fanboy, Lumix fanboy, whatever fanboy, but those cameras are just going to be legendary cameras because that's what they are. It's an industry leading camera that everyone has, with the FX7 and the FS7 and then the FS9 too, and then the Venice. And come on guys, like we can't say anything about those cameras. So let's just stop comparing new cameras and stuff that are coming to just are going to beat those cameras, because they are not. There is no way that you are going to beat those cameras in this specific moment, because there is no way. Like, there is no company that has put any camera that is able to compete with those cameras, or are basically going to compete against creators that actually use those cameras. So yeah, that's it. So from there we come back to us and this new Canon camera and the specs that Andrea Pizzini, for example, my Italian buddy, not buddy, we don't know each other, never talked. So yeah, I don't even know why buddy, but whatever. He leaked, let's say so, the specs of what a source basically told him, and what the specs are going basically to be. Already from a couple of this, you understand that it's not even an FX killer, nowhere near an FX killer, especially because this sensor is going to have 32 megapixel sensor. We don't know if it's going to be stacked or what type of sensor it's going to be, or semi or whatever. It's going to have 6K recording with OpenGate. They don't specify if the OpenGate is going to be, downsampling as Lumix does for the 60 modes in OpenGate, or it's going to be the full screen readout of 6K OpenGate. This is going to have 4K 120 cropped. Let me repeat, 4K 120 cropped. FX3 killer. It's going to have a triple base ISO, so basically what was introduced with the C400. No sure what type of dynamic range this sensor will have, so not sure what triple base will have, but what it's going to have is basically going to be the C-Log2 and the C-Log3 formats, which I just believe that that Canon should just use the C-Log2 in all their bodies from now on, as Lumix does use their own best log format that they have in their cameras, which is only one, thank God. And then Sony delivers the best log format they have in all their cameras, but Sony has a ton of formats. So that is a different story, and it's set to announce in 4 days, as I said at the beginning. So let's talk about the FX3 killer part, right? So first thing first is going to be a 32 megapixel sensor, okay? Allegedly 32 megapixel sensor. And already from here, we understand that it's not going to compete with that sensor, okay? Because to be able, I think that if you want to compete with the camera, you have to basically navigate at the same sensor level with that camera, right? So that camera, no matter what you say to this camera, the sensitivity that is going to have in low light is going to be still unbeatable. Dot. Those cameras were older, and Sony, to protect, let's say, a little bit their cameras, OpenGate is something that they already came out and said that is not something they care about or they need. And clearly the major Sony creators and Sony shooters have said it too, that they don't care. It's not a function that they actually truly care about. If they have it, cool, they are happy about it. It's something that they really need. They said it themselves. No. The people who are actually pushing more the OpenGate function is us, Lumix user, which we have said it, that it's actually a pretty neat feature to have and to use, because it is. Like, I shot corporate weddings and stuff, and they ask, you know, for us to deliver in both formats, especially in this age of TikTok and Instagram and stuff, especially in weddings. What are you going to do in that case? Like, are you just going to deliver, you know, the vertical version of the video and then they just post it? It looks like trash most of the time when you do it like that. But in that case, when you have OpenGate, it's just more simple. You just able to crop in, not lose, you know, frames, and not lose, you know, the framing space and stuff. So that is where OpenGate is super good. But many people have said that is not something they care about, so don't know if Sony will still deliver that, but apparently Canon is happy of that. So OpenGate is something that they're going to bring that obviously the FX3 don't have. So in that case, is it an FX3 killer? Up to you to decide on that. Dynamic range 15 stop plus is basically on par with the FX3, but Canon has a problem with dynamic range. If it's not their cinema lineup, which this camera is going to be part of the cinema lineup, but typically the dynamic range from Canon mirrorless cameras have been bad. If you're not paying, you know, the R1, the R3 prices and the R5 prices, most of the time it's really bad. Even I've felt that the R5 dynamic range was still not the best. The R5 Mark II, I think they bump it up a little bit more, but it's still on the lower end compared to the S5 Mark II X, for example, or the Sony A7 IV. They still have a superior dynamic range than those cameras that cost way more. As a videographer, I'm talking as a videographer, not photographer. So if you're gonna come here as a photographer, this is not your talk. I'm talking especially about as a videographer. And then C-Log2, C-Log3, C-Log2 way far superior than C-Log3, obviously. And I just hope they will release it in all their bodies. And one thing that they actually came out and said is that this sensor might actually be the Phantomatic R6 Mark III, which is supposed to come by the end of the year. So that is quite an interesting news. So we have to just stay there and see what will actually happen. But I'm quite intrigued about this camera. It's quite interesting, especially now that I kind of had the time to spend a little bit more with the R6 Mark II, which it brought me down the line with my original R6. Let's say that my love for Canon kind of resurfaced a little bit, and switching back to Canon, probably not, but to get to try this camera or to even be able to rent it and use it on works, that would be something I will be probably craving, and it will be really amazing. But yeah, what are your thoughts? And do you think that this camera is going to be legit? Do you actually think that this camera is going to be an FX3 killer? And let's chat down below. Thank you for staying here and listening to me blubbering. Take care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm going to see you in the next one.